Take control of your life. Break the chains and rise. No more feeling powerless. No more shame. Take your power. Break out of the pain. Because it's more than fornication. More than procreation. It's not just self-stimulation. Sex energy is for creation and transformation into a new destination.
This is Porn Talk.
Porn Talk. Change your heart from dark to light. Porn Talk. Break free. Take back your power and rise. I said take back your power. I said take back your power.
This is Porn Talk. Here is your host, Eric Zuzak.
We have Krystal Taylor with us. Krystal is a certified Tantra yoga instructor who specializes in educating and supporting individuals towards sexual wholeness. Krystal believes a society that fears, shames, and brings no spiritual intent to its natural sexual urges is a breeding ground for rape culture and spiritual immaturity. Welcome, Krystal Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Eric.
Well, tell us a little bit of what is Tantra, and then how did you get into this unique area?
What is Tantra? Well, first of all, I want to say that a lot of people believe different definitions. With Tantra, it's kind of like trying to explain, I don't know, maybe what's Christianity to people or like a spiritual belief system, but it's more of a science. It's kind of like a spiritual science and philosophy on a way to like live life. So it's not just about sex or sexuality or love. It's about a way to walk through life and connect with the divine. It's a way of doing that. And I got into this practice and this work, ironically, through a track injury. I was a collegiate track runner and a post-collegiate track runner. And I had injuries surrounding my hips. I had got into yoga because I thought I was going to go to the Olympics and I needed something to support my endeavors as a stay-at-home mom who had big dreams and really was trying to figure out life. And I got injured because I think after having children and not really doing a lot of good core work and just not having a lot of deep awareness and not being trained well, I ended up getting injured. The injury centered around my hips. And so because I had a background in yoga, even though I kind of went into it, for economic reasons, it taught me a lot about the spiritual body and just about the body in general and how it's connected and how energetic blocks can reflect in your physicality. And so I use that knowledge to try to help heal the imbalance in my hips as a sacral iliac dysfunction. As I started to be really intentional about my practice and my hips, I started to unlock all of this kind of suppressed sexual energy just through my yoga practice. And not only were these like physical feelings coming up, but subconsciously things were coming up through my dreams, different symbols. And so I started to do research on it further, and it kind of led me down a rabbit hole to the sacral sensual arts. And, that's like the short version of the story, but basically that's how I got into it.
Awesome. Yoga and Tantra normally put together?
For me, it is. So when you're talking about yoga is a science as well. It's like a spiritual science too. It's not just about asana or the postures, but it's also about breathing techniques. It's also about meditation. It's also about a philosophy of like how you deal with karma and how you walk through life. Like all of these paths are about aligning with spirit and our walk back to where we came from. We all came from one source. We all came from God, if you will. You can call it whatever you want to. I like to call it God sometimes to the universe, but the one source in which we all come from, the divine source. All these spiritual paths are like, okay, we're born. How do we get back? How do we reconnect with that? Because without that, we can't fuel our spirit. And then you can't really walk through this world, in a very pleasant way. And so yoga is that science as well. The physical postures of yoga actually is a tantric practice because it uses the body. And the idea around Tantra is that we are not trying to always transcend our physical existence, our human existence, or our worldly existence to be more spiritual, but we weave the physical aspect, the primal aspect of who we are with our spiritual selves so that we have a quicker and stronger path towards back to the divine. Like we have a more holistic view of like what all this is all about. So even though in the traditional sense, a lot of people veer away from the word tantra because there's so much stigma associated with that when it comes to like classical yoga, the postures that's so popular actually came from or derived from the tantric practice. So even though, and most people don't know that or they don't acknowledge that, the other thing that people should know about yoga, which why some people think it's evil, is because it's really centered around awakening Kundalini. And Kundalini is like the serpent energy that lies at the base of the spine, that if you bring it all the way up, if your heart is pure or pure enough, like we're not all like super, super pure of heart, but if you have good intentions and you've done the work on a lot of your fears, it can move past the heart and open your third eye. Okay. And then you like awaken all this like spiritual powers. And so the goal of a yoga practice is to be able to do that. You kind of have this transformation, spiritual transformation, and Kundalini helps you do that. That's what the postures are for. That's what the yoga is about. Otherwise, you're kind of just using it to cope. So I don't think a lot of yogis know that either. Like a lot of classically trained yogis don't know that either. So I would say, yes, they are usually put together, but a lot of times subconsciously people don't know that. Like they're just kind of doing the postures. They may even do the breath work and the meditation, but they don't really know like this is what these postures and this is what you're working towards, because this is how you bring yourself back to the divine in a physical human existence. It's awakening your spirit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of yoga and think, oh, you mean stretching?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so much more than that. And
and it could be just stretching for you, but yeah,
I understand. Anyway, a friend of mine, I call him Sir William. He's been on the podcast many times. We were talking about Kundalini, and we said, "Oh, that's isn't that a Italian dish at a restaurant? Isn't that pasta? Go have a nice plate of Kundalini."
Sounds like it. Maybe somewhere it is,
doesn't it?
How funny.
But yeah, that what you're talking about there, bringing that energy up from the sacral chakra up to our crown. There's just a really basic thing that I like to teach clients, and you don't have to mention tantra or yoga or anything, and just take your hands down by your sacral chakra, and you take just a deep breath up, and then you just bring it up. And I tell guys, if you're really feeling like you're wanting to act out the porn, just pause and just bring your hands down by your sides, and take a big deep breath and move your hands up, and bring it up to your heads. And because the old thing that men are thinking with their penis can be very true. So you literally move that energy up from your sacral chakra, your sexual chakra, up into your crown chakra, and then you can start thinking with the right head.
Exactly. Yeah, and I love that you're doing that, because that is a tantric practice. Like the idea is that instead of compartmentalizing the higher self and the lower self, or the primal self and what we may consider our more spiritual self, is you connect that energy with your heart. I think a lot of the problem is a lot of people's hearts are just really guarded. They don't want to be vulnerable. They've been really hurt. And so that energy gets locked down in their sacral chakra. But in order to kind of purify that energy and be able to think with, you know, your spiritual self or your higher self and kind of connect the two, you have to breathe into it, and breath in your lungs is around the heart. That's the heart chakra. So when you're able to connect those two energies, you can have a more well-rounded, balanced perspective of the best decisions for you, because there's nothing wrong with being erotic and using that part of yourself, but it needs to be aligned with your higher self so it serves you best.
Right. In your bio, I read that a society that fears, shames, and brings no spiritual intent to its natural sexual urges is a breeding ground for rape culture and spiritual immaturity. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I said a lot of one sentence. I was trying to jam so much into one sentence. Yeah, so I feel like, well, not I feel like, I know, and even men may know this, and women, because women can be just as, you know, lack sexual discipline and have challenges in this area as well. Like they can be super manipulative and, you know, their sexual energy, and have a hard time connecting to their heart when that happens. But I think when you cannot control your sexual energy, you have poor temperament. You know, it's like you can get really frustrated, especially for men. They get really fiery and anxious, and they're controlled by it. And that's why sexual content is used in media so much, to advertise things or to pull people in or to get their money. Because if you don't have a lot of control on that part of your mind or your consciousness, it can be pull you in, because sexual energy is magnetic and it's extremely powerful. And not only that, it's connected to your subconscious mind, your primal self. So like it will have you doing things habitually, and it'll be hard to get out of those behaviors once it's like locked in, connected to your sexual energy.
Yeah.
So I think that's the image, that's the place of immaturity. Like if you think about when you're growing up and when you're a kid and someone says boob or nipple, you're like, you know, it's like it's and you have some adult.
She said boob.
Exactly. So it's that, and you have some adults that are still like that. You know,
Yes.
it's okay. It's okay to a certain extent. Like it's fun, right? But if it puts you in a place where, you know, you don't know how to transition to where it's important, you know, when you are making love with someone that you want to be serious about, or if you're watching media and that kind of pulls you in and you don't know how to discern, okay, is this too much as far as media, what I'm watching? Because you're like, oh, should I watch? You know, like, you know, or if it's okay, you know, or you can be detached from it because there's a certain amount of maturity and control that you have. And then I think with the rape culture, I think a lack of understanding and control of your energy can just make you not make the best decisions when it comes to sexual situations. You know, a lot of times when it comes to rape, that was an intense statement I made, but you know, it's more about like power than it is like desire. But I also think that when things are so taboo and there's so much fear and shame around things become unaddressed, especially when it comes to family. Nobody's talking about it. And so things just persist instead of holding people accountable and teaching them better. You know, like, no, this is not what you do, even though this may have been done to you when you were younger. When you can't talk about it, when sex is so shameful, then like it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, what's odd about the United States is that we have this total polar thing going on. It's like,
yes,
it's taboo to talk about sexual things, although that is changing, I believe. And but then the totally opposite extreme is the mass, the largest percentage of searches and porn sites on the internet is porn websites that are being
right.
used. So there's this huge polar extreme in the United States. It's like, oh, we don't want to really talk about that taboo topic, yet seemingly a lot of people are on porn websites.
Yeah, and then not just the porn, it's also like it's in our advertising, it's in our like there's some shows and even like some of these Marvel movies, I'll take my kids to see them, which my kids are teenagers, so they're fine, but it's like, wow, there's some explicit like things are because like people are right on the edge with these sexual innuendos, but we are not like educating our youth and our people, in ways, but we're drawing them in with it. It's pure capitalism, I guess, but it's dangerous,
Yeah. And what's dangerous about it is it does lead to this sexual immaturity. And with porn, it really does stunt your growth in many ways.
Yes.
Your maturity, it stunts
Your development.
growth. Yeah.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of younger guys like that are maybe say 25 and younger that really struggle with porn addiction because they were exposed to it at such a young age,
Yeah.
and they feel out of control, and your mind is still developing when you're a young teen, and even into like I think your early 20s, your mind is still developing, and so you develop these behaviors that you can't control, and then it makes you anxious. And I feel anxiety is, so chronic in our society, and like porn just feeds off of that. Media and social media feeds off of that. Like I don't know, it's disturbing for sure.
Yeah, it is disturbing. And like I said, when we were talking offline the other day, when I first started the podcast, I thought there was, a healthy use of porn, and we discussed that a little bit. You have some other views, which is cool. Tell us how is porn like junk food?
Yeah, so I made a video on YouTube called Porn is Like Junk Food because people wanted to know my opinion on porn. And I like to describe it as junk food because like junk food, there is the goal, I think, for most like fast food restaurants and junk food is it's just to like become really a lot of it's designed to become addictive. It's designed to like for like immediate gratification. But there's not a lot of nutrition in it. And but if you are someone who is, good at making good food choices and taking care of your body, you might crave it every now and then, but you can be detached from it. It's there, cool. Sometimes you might crave a hamburger and some fries. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it. Like porn is designed to arouse you, period. And then some of it's designed to make you addictive so that you make it addicted so that you will keep coming back because it's an industry to make money off of your arousal. But there's no nutritional value. So meaning it's not grounded in spirituality. Most of it's not trying to teach you anything. Most of it's not responsibly made because there is no, because again, when there's shame about this area in society, it's going uncontrolled. So there's no, well, maybe there is, but I'm not aware. There's no like head corporate, like, institution that's making sure that porn is responsibly made, that this content is only for a certain group of people, or making sure that if people need help, you can access this website or whatever. That's not going on because there's too much shame. People feel like they shouldn't even be talking about it during the day. It's just something that, oh, maybe you do sometimes at night. But so in that way, I feel like it's like junk food. It's just meant to arouse you, keep you coming back. But if you're trying to find some balance with it, just like I like a fillet of fish sometimes from McDonald's, like I'm never going to stop liking it. But if I don't have it, it's okay. And if I have it every now and then, it's not going to kill me. So that's how I feel like I would like people to kind of look at it. But again, who knows what all they're putting in the junk food? Like, do you really need it at all? Maybe not.
Yeah, yeah. They put in the MSG, monosodium glutamate, which is meant to, make it more addictive.
Right. Yeah. So I think like I'm a tantrika, so I feel like if something is in reality, then it's just here, and it's not it's nothing is inherently good or bad, but it's our responsibility as spiritual beings as we walk through life to not become too overly averted to certain things and not be too attached to it, to walk the middle path. Because if you are completely repelled by something, a lot of times you'll be drawn to it,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
you just want to be able to be like, okay, it's there. And that's how I feel about porn. I'm like, I have many other things that fulfill me and arouse me that are much more well-rounded that I get off on, and I don't need it. But if my teacher, I have a tantra teacher, he's a man, and then like physical videos. And a lot of times if he wants to teach me something about the womb and or the vulva, and so squirting, it also has spiritual meaning in tantra, with the woman's waters flowing and her heightened state of arousal and where she might be in her conscious mind, which she can access to. And so he may show a video showing, okay, sometimes the lips become very aroused and you'll see the blood flow, and then you'll see these secretions, and then you'll see this flow. So that type of explicit content can be important if you want to, when you're teaching on that level, or even if a guy who wants to learn how to practice cunnilingus and he doesn't know whether clitoris is, or know that different clitorises look different, or like that type of explicit material is not easily accessible outside of porn. Like there's
Right.
not many. I mean, I'm hoping to create more of a online school or something where we are able to have that type of content in an educational environment about pleasure, not just scientific. But it's very hard to find certain things without going to those types of websites. But I don't think it's impossible to find. It's just not as easily accessible.
Yeah.
So
You had
yeah.
said something to the effect about responsible porn, and that's where I started going to. It's like I thought to myself, well, okay, let's say that someone can healthfully use porn. Then I thought, well, but then what about the creators of the porn? Like sometimes there's a lot of sex trafficking or whatever.
Yeah.
And if there could be like some responsibly made porn, however, when you go to just like the free tube site, you're not getting the responsibly made porn. You're getting
No.
the bottom of the barrel, you know what I'm saying? And
I
it's
agree.
like there needs to be a certified organic porn, you know?
Or just adult content. Like there are like people out there. Sometimes it's immature porn, sometimes it's OnlyFans, and you gotta be careful with that. Sometimes there are smaller creative individuals that are making adult content, is what I like to veer towards. That's the intentions are a little bit better. But I think because there's a lack of what I'm trying to teach, there's going to be a lack of like holistic erotic material. But if you like get you a tantra book, or if you go back to like indigenous philosophies, and you get some of these books, the Sexual Secrets, The Alchemy of Ecstasy, and you see these beautiful like drawings of lovemaking, or the Healing Love Through the Tao, some of these books, and they show different positions, and they show you how to circulate the energy between partners. Like you will, there is some artful content out there. You just have to be aware of it. Yeah, I feel like again, yeah, I still feel like porn is like junk food. Yeah, and a lot of it's irresponsibly made, but there's a lot of stuff that's irresponsibly made in this world. There's all kinds of dark forces, and I think that's when you have to use your intuition. If you feel strongly against this, doesn't feel right, this, like I'm not sure, I'd rather stay away from it than do. And maybe you'll come across a source that your intentions align with. So I think being against porn completely makes sense, but I think what's more important is to be for, like, what are you looking for? Like,
Yeah.
because erotic content and adult content, I do think, have a place in education, especially when it comes to pleasure. Because if you're having trouble making love and connecting to like your physical body, natural body, and all of those things, it's very hard to get comfortable with that without seeing a representation of it, a healthy representation of it. Yeah.
I think a easy way to discern whether what you're watching is healthy or not is afterwards, do you feel guilt and shame? You know, if you watch something and you feel guilty or shameful or don't want anyone to ever know what you're watching or seeing, then that's probably a really good sign that you're on the wrong track.
Yeah, and I think you have to be careful with that too, though, because what if the guilt and shame comes from something your parents taught you or something you heard at church, and that happens a lot. So,
Good point. Very good point.
yeah, so I think that this is why people like me exist and like you exist, but especially me as a coach, because we unpack those things and we figure out what's serving and unserving. I think that if you're using media to cope with something and then you're coming off a high and you just crash down and then it distracts you from your life and you can see that it's hurting you, it's creating behaviors that are hurting you, you're not meeting your goals, you're not feeling emotionally fulfilled or all those things, like that's when you know, okay, something is wrong. But I remember, I'll give you a perfect example. I remember I was having a really hard time in my marriage. There was just a lack of intimacy and emotional connection, even though my husband was great and he's still a great guy. My ex-husband's a really great guy. He just didn't get that part, and I was missing that. And I think one night he had fallen asleep, and I wanted to make love, and again, he just wasn't available to me. So I just kind of started watching these like little sexy HBO movies, and then I graduated from that to like going to the internet, and then I noticed that there was these like sexier videos, and I think I ended up on Pornhub, which I think that was maybe the first time I ever watched porn, like as an adult. And so I just kind of kept going, like was interested. And I think I may have did that one or two times. And then one night, like I had these horrible nightmares. And so like I was like, oh, I'm never watching porn again. Like this is bad. But I was in a dark place in my life. I was like on the verge of depression. Then fast forward to when I started to practice and learn Tantra under a teacher. Now, my teacher is a man. He's very sweetheart, but he's still a man, and he likes erotic content. And he would send me erotic content to teach me certain things, or just to find out what aroused me, so that when we were doing rituals over the phone, he could know things that I like to rev up my sexual energy. And I'd be like, "Hey, I don't really like porn. Don't send me porn." And then eventually, I kind of opened up to it, and then I was able to use it to learn from. I still don't watch a lot of it, but like I know where my boundaries are with it, and I know like how to not be so avert to it and so like repelled by it. It's like it's like something that exists, but it's not of interest to me. I'm working towards educating people and supporting the content and media that I like. So like I think like you have to be. It takes a deep sense of awareness, and that's why I'm so proud of what I do, because when you can refine that sexual energy and really go to the deepest darkest places of your mind, because sexuality is a wonderful beautiful thing, but it is on the darker side of reality, right? When you can learn to refine that part of yourself and know, have some balance with it, you can do anything. You can do anything. So and you can address like some of the things that have been plaguing you for a really long time. They're not even related to sex. It could be related to anything. But yeah.
Yeah. And I like to tell clients, if you have a high sex drive and you feel like it's a curse, it is not. It's kind of like, a Mississippi mule and a black thoroughbred horse. Do you want to be the Mississippi, let's say even castrated Mississippi mule that just is standing there and barely exists, or do you want to be full of energy like the black stallion that is they're trying to put the trying to put the reins on, and you have a lot of sexual energy. That's great. You can but you need to transmute it, transform it, channel it to your goals and dreams.
Exactly. And that's why I think understanding the spiritual context of sexuality is so important, that people understand that your sexual energy has other roles besides just physical arousal in the bedroom. Like
Yeah.
it's your zest for life. It's the same. Like my teacher used to always explain to me, like, this is why, like, some of your top athletes, they'll say, don't have sex, too much sex before a big game or
Yeah.
something, because
Yeah.
it's the same energy you need to, like, get up and go and do the things that you need to go. It's the same energy that you use to be creative and be able to just feel sensual and enjoy life, whether it's the wind blowing through your hair, or the sun on your skin, or it plays many other roles other than just like whatever you've seen in Victoria's Secret or on Playboy or on porn. And I think if people understand that, they'll have a lot more respect for the sacredness of that part of who they are.
Yeah. I know in boxing in particular is one that is known for, your boxing coach saying, hey, you got a big fight coming up. You got to tell your wife that, you got to cool it in the bedroom
Yeah,
for a couple weeks before your big fight. So you
right.
have
Yeah.
that sexual energy available to you. And one of my clients, he's dating, and he's he's getting there. He's getting there. He's not quite there yet with the masturbation. Some guys choose to eliminate just the porn. Other guys choose to raise the bar and even eliminate masturbation. And he masturbates sometimes, and and still does view porn sometimes. And I say, if you're going to go on your date, if you're going to go on a date and you want that little extra sparkle in your eye and a little extra skip in your step, man, don't use porn or masturbate for, a couple days, at least a couple days before that date. Because otherwise, the night before you masturbate to porn, then the next day you go on that date and that sparkle in your eye, in my opinion, isn't there as much as it would be otherwise. Well, Krystal, we're already out of time, but how can people reach you? What's your website?
KrystalTantricYogi.com.
That's KrystalTantricYogi.com. And the good news is Krystal will be back next week to share more sexual wisdom. Stay powerful.
Are you struggling with porn or sex addiction? Then apply for a free strategy call with Eric today at powerfuleric.com.